Hello Sacred Beings and welcome to my channel. Today I have a doozy. We are going deep into the planet Maldek, or also called Tiamat, and the history of 5D Earth before some things happened. We'll also touch on the Draconians, the Anunnaki again, but mainly about the history of planet Maldek. So if you're new here and you like this kind of stuff and you want to be part of our spiritual community, growing together while on our sacred journeys, then please subscribe. But without further ado, we have a lot of info to cover, so let's go. Okay, so the whole reason of this video was, in my previous video, I talked about Mars, or Martians, starseeds from planet Mars. But that got me learning about Maldek, or the Maldekian Starseeds, the planet Maldek that is in between, or was in between, Mars and Jupiter. So it was very similar to the characteristics of Mars. And after a bunch of research about Maldek, I learned even more stuff, which led to more questions. So this is a very deep topic, so just keep an open mind. You won't need your notepad this time for markings in your birth chart. There are a few, but it's mainly the history of what happened that I wanted to share with you guys from my point of view and what resonates with me, like what was the truth, like what actually happened, because there's lots of stories. So let's just touch base on what is Maldek. Not to be confused with Mintakan or Mintaka, which we'll talk about that planet in another video, that starseed, because I extremely resonate with them, but I'm going to save that for another video. Maldek is totally different. So this was a planet on the other side of Mars that has not existed for millions, maybe even billions of years. The current remains of this planet appears to be what we know in our solar system as the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. So before I go further into that, I just want to talk about the planet itself before we get into the asteroid belt and what happened. So there is a theory, if you believe in the Matrix, our planet exists in three main formed identities. So the 3D Earth, where we live now and resonate now, the 5D Earth called Tara, and the 7D Earth called Gaia. So they are all planet Earths at different stages of evolutions within different timelines. So I talked a little bit of timelines before because I had a dream about them, but just hear me out. So the Earth was called Terra. Earth was Terra, not to be confused with 5D planet Earth, Tara. For Earth originally came from Tara, which exploded millions of years ago and was sucked into a reversal black hole, which fragmented the entire fifth dimensional planetary blueprint into 12 planetary bodies in our current third dimensional solar system. So these 12 planets, so when Tara exploded or got sucked into the reversal black hole, it fragmented itself and its consciousness and its being of the 5D Earth into 12 planets, which most of you will know in our solar system as Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Maldek, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Nibiru. And then also the last one is our sun star, is the 12th one. So I've talked about Nibiru before in the Anunnaki video that I covered, so we'll get into that. So they said Maldek, which is one of the 12 from 5D Tara, was the 3D planet in our solar system, but it also had a counterpart in the 5D called Tiamat, or Tiamat. So it's the same planet, Maldek, but resonating on different frequencies in different dimensions. So the asteroid belt we see right now in the third dimension is the third dimensional remains of Maldek. And then the asteroid belt we see in the fifth dimension is the remains of Tiamat. So Maldek was a planet that had seeded, hybridized dragon races that were inhabiting the planet before it exploded. So before we get into the dragons, let's just talk a little bit more about Maldek. So just the planet itself, the 3D Maldek planet. So it was a warlike planet with highly intelligent beings who were not great with emotion. So similar to the Martian video, they existed in a mental realm and focused mainly on technological developments. They destroyed their own planet with technology because they weren't able to catch up spiritually. So that's one theory, is that they exploded themselves. But the one that I'm resonating with is what we're going to get into, is that another source says their planet was infiltrated by another group and they fought for their existence but lost to not using their technology against them. So the other group used their own technology on the Maldek people, and then the Maldekians fled their planet before it was exploded into pieces. Two different theories, but there's more to that second theory of what actually happened. Who was that group that infiltrated them? But before we get into that, let's talk about the traits. So if you think you come from Maldek, you are going to have these traits. And I know I don't do a lot of trait videos, but since there is not a lot of markings in your chart for Maldek, we're just going to go over some traits real quick. So the Maldekian people, they are mentally gifted, they have strong masculine energy, drawn to science and technology, and struggle to feel and or express emotions. They might have a difficulty with their morals or spirituality, but have lots of natural gifts. They are very deliberate decision makers because they look at the facts, they are very blunt, and they can be socially awkward. They are very driven, but they may be too focused and ignore relationships. So Maldekians can definitely experience love, and they do have strong emotions. They just struggle with identifying them because they aren't used to focusing on their emotional body. One of the main purposes is to learn how to understand their emotions and then relate to other people. Lastly, their other main purpose is to not repeat what happened or let it repeat what happened on their own planet. So learning how to incorporate their emotional and spiritual bodies is the way forward for them. So the only really markings I can give you, because there's not a lot, is that in your birth chart you will have a lot of water signs. So at least 3 water signs, or if your main zodiac or top 3 are water, then that's one aspect, but I don't have any more other than that. If you want more info about their traits and their gifts and their missions and all that good stuff, then visit spiritualunite.com, which is linked below, just to learn more about them, because I have a lot of history and crazy stuff that went on with this planet to share with you. So remember how I said Maldek was infiltrated and that they had dragons living on their planet? Well, if you are a Maldekian Starseed, there's a very high chance that you are also part reptilian, or you are a reptilian hybrid, and we will go into why that is. I have gone into previous videos about the positive side about being a reptilian or aligning with them in your past lives or visiting there or having family that are reptilians. It's not all bad. So let's see what exactly was going on with the reptilians in Maldek before it exploded and how it affects us now. So Tara, remember the 5D Earth, before that got sucked into the black hole and created our 12 planets, was the original place of the human blueprint. So I also talked about blueprinters. So they're saying they were originally created in the 5-dimensional. Some people say it was 7-dimensional and then got dropped down to 5, but I'm just going to focus that it was on a 5-dimensional planet where the original blueprint was created. So humans were seeded. They could be modified and modify the Earth itself. So 5D Earth, kind of like an experiment. Humans are created as avatars functioning in the 5-dimensional planet. They call it an experiment because the creator didn't know what was possible by creating this type of avatar. It's the first time creating humans. And the other thing is, when they created them, when Source created the original blueprint of humans, they let us or them have unlimited access to Source, unlimited access to consciousness. The whole planet, 5D Terra, was an open source system where everyone and everything, every sentient being, was continually and constantly communicating to Source and they were making adjustments that is in divine service to all within all dimensions. So basically, they let humans be connected directly to source, and every thought you have, the other people are aware of. Everything you do affects other people. What you think affects everything else. So basically, they made the perfect angelic humans that were in service to others, because you want to do things that influence others in a positive way, and you're all connected, so why hurt something or think something negative when that affects someone and then that eventually affects you. So that was the first time doing that, and I think it's crazy because that is like what everybody's focusing on now, is to try to get back to that, which we will go into that very soon. However, not all universes operated on this open source system that Source was creating within our 5D planet and universe. So not every universe was doing things that way, even though ours was trying to. So another universe was creating something so powerful that it caused a leak or a bleed through the timelines. And in a sense, it crashed into our universe, or that 5D planet Terra. And when that happened, this caused many of the beings and the original blueprint humans to become very traumatized. And this shock filtered through their consciousness, causing a fracture in their beingness. They attempted to make repairs, but a conscious war broke out. So if you look up conscious wars, that was like one of the big things going on in the universe, was like to fight over having that access to source. So yes, that conscious war is still going on right now. So they attempted to make repairs, but a conscious war broke out, and Tara exploded into the reversal black hole, fragmenting itself into 12 planets, which I mentioned earlier. So let's go back to one of the planets, Maldek, after Tara exploded. So Tiamat, or Maldek in the 3D, Tiamat's the 5D, was the living goddess of the 10th gate of planet Earth. So what was formerly called Sumeria, now in Iraq, this is what I talked about in my previous Anunnaki video. So definitely go check it out. It's going to be linked in the description. I briefly talked about like them having some sort of access in Iraq or Iran. But this will all make sense very soon, and this will bring together that video with this one. So Tiamat was the living intelligence gatekeeper to the Christ Buddha avatar matrix, meaning like the highest dimensional, most perfect beings that were created on Tara before it exploded. When they created the human blueprint, where we had access to higher realms and all the dimensions, she is now the protector of that information, because you don't want negative beings to have access to source, because then they can spread those negative thoughts, lower our vibrations, put fear into people's mind, which eventually happened, and we'll go into that. So remember how I mentioned Maldek was infiltrated by another ET group? Well, it was in fact the Nibiru. And the Nibiru is the 12th planet that was created when Tara got sucked into the black hole. So after she exploded, all of her consciousness and knowledge was scattered as well, with Tiamat as the protector. Like most of the knowledge went to that planet, Maldek and Tiamat. So since Tara was inhabited by godlike humans, when Tara exploded and it was all spread out, most of the people that were created landed up and started living on Maldek or Tiamat. The humans that were created now living there with Tiamat as the protector, the humans themselves were also designed to be the guardians of the universal genetic library, basically holding the heart of the entire universal body. So when Tiamat eventually explodes, which we'll say why, that sacred heart was scattered as well, and all of the angelic humans and species were forced to incarnate upon Earth in the lowest density during the Dark Ages, in order to begin the long process of reclaiming and healing our original human DNA. They also say when the humans had to go to Earth, an even lower dimension, and forget like who they were when they were created and all the knowledge and the oneness of source, like having to relearn that, which is going on now. They said when they first went there, like as soon as Maldek exploded, like millions and billions of years ago, that this is when Atlantis and Lemuria begun. Like they started that and became Lemurians and Atlanteans. So more about Tiamat is also, she's also called the goddess of the sea, or the mother goddess, and that's because her planet was mostly made of water. So she also had a moon orbiting her planet called Abzu. And he was the god of freshwater. So she was the goddess of salty water, and he was the goddess of freshwater. So they say that they had children, they got married, like their consciousness, as you know how Earth is like, has a consciousness and is a woman. Same thing with Tiamat, was a woman version, and her consciousness and his consciousness. So they say that they had children, and since they are water gods, they can transform and then birth reptilian or dragon beings, including like all the dragon races that are out there. Say like they started with these guys. So Tiamat, as the mother goddess, was exploded by Nibiru, the Anunnaki home planet. So this is why I went over in the previous video about the Anunnaki, is that their home planet is Nibiru. And Nibiru is also called Marduk. I know it's confusing because Nibiru is Marduk, the male, and then Maldek, or Tiamat, is the female. Nibiru is the planet past Pluto, the furthest one. So he wanted to use her, to use Tiamat, all of her like essence and her knowledge of source, to recreate and replicate her female essence. To force her to birth creatures in reversal format, so anti-life or anti-source or anti-light. It was like less light beings is what he wanted to create, like a darker side. So the polarity of heaven and hell would be like Maldek and Tiamat compared to Nibiru and Marduk. So he wanted to focus more on service to self and ego and fear, instead of what she was all about, was service to others and oneness. So after she was exploded by Nibiru, which we'll go into a theory of how he killed her. So after she exploded and her pieces floated in space between Mars and Jupiter as our asteroid belt now, her consciousness was captured and tethered to Nibiru or to Malduk. The asteroid belt and Nibiru both move in a retrograde orbit, and the Anunnaki who live on Nibiru are used in alien architecture using pieces of asteroid belt, so pieces of her, to tether Nibiru's orbit into our solar system and stabilize it. It's also called Wormwood and attached to Earth in the 11th Stargate portal, which I talked about in Portals, which is located in Stonehenge. So Wormwood is their officially created battle star that exists in Nibiru's counter orbit and leaches to former body parts of Tiamat. Basically, took pieces of her from the asteroid belt, found out a way to basically make it his moon in Nibiru, so it orbits him, but he gets to leech on her information and have access to her, and in return, that's like a portal to Earth. And that's why they say a lot of Anunnaki beings or Draconians, the negative ones, can get to Earth is through like using this wormwood or wormhole to get to Stonehenge, and that's how they branch out. But if you think about, Tiamat had access to the 10th gate in Iran and Iraq, so they can use both of those portals intermittently, which is pretty crazy. But Marduk goes on to use this intelligence of source consciousness and access to consciously try to persuade people that he was the creator of humans, that he was the creator of life. And in return, he makes humans his slaves and forces them to create hybrids, to do his bidding, to take over, the cosmos, to take over people's consciousness, to lower the vibration into lower dimensions and spread fear. He also uses human slaves, which I talked about before, to mine gold for other planets. So basically use all of her information and access to humans for himself in a negative way. But there are groups that are out there that have been working to heal our true human DNA and to bring us back to the 5th dimensional Earth, which is going on right now. But before I go a little more into that, I just want to tell you the family line of Tiamat. So she is the goddess of dragons, you can say, mother of dragons, because she had children. So this is why the theory, I think, of why she was exploded by Malduk, or why they're all linked together, is that she had 4 children. So the first pair were twins called Lamu and Lahamu, and they gave birth to Anshar and Kishar, who gave birth to Anu and Antu, who birthed the Anunnaki. And then the Anunnaki, they then go on to birth Malduk. So eventually, they all turn on her. They say the reason why is because she got into a fight with her husband, that he was thinking her children were monsters and he wanted to get rid of them. There was this fight between families. Malduk said that he would be the one to try to take her out. But her other two children are Mumu and King Ju. And King Ju becomes the leader of Tiamat's army, because she then creates real monsters, like fight her own children to protect her, because she didn't want to kill her children, right? But some of the kids wanted the negative kids killed, and she didn't. She's a mother, she's a protector. So she created these monsters to protect her children and to protect herself. And then Marduk eventually comes and kills her or explodes her, in short. So they say that Draconians, or humanoid dragons, are said to be created by Tiamat, like way, way down the line, which makes sense because there was humans living on her before she exploded, along with her children. So that would make sense that she gave birth, eventually her like grandchildren birth the Anunnaki. But it's just crazy that you go and like turn your back on family and then try to steal your mother's like essence. It's all very messed up. But most of us right now, back to like the groups that are here to help us uplift ourselves, the light workers, there's groups that are here to bring us back to awareness of where we came from. Like, we were created as one, and all the power to, you know, be our best selves and to have connection to all the realms, not just to be here on Earth. But anyways, after all of this research, the one thing that I took from it is that we are all come from a place of higher consciousness, and that is where we will return. But for now, you can start focusing on being more conscious about how we are all connected and how we're all one, so how your thoughts affect other people. But you can look up like 5D ascensions if you feel that you are, you know, ascending into the 5D Earth, which, if you didn't know, that we're getting back to that 5D, where Terra was our 5D Earth before it exploded. We're getting to that, but you can be in the 3D plane and still have a 5D frequency and live in that dimension. It's all about like raising your vibration and realizing that your thoughts affect other people and that they are part of you. So you don't want to do things that hurt other people, and you don't want to say things and like, you know, you want to get rid of your ego, all this stuff. So you can look up 5D ascension signs on Google and find out the symptoms if you are ascending, or what you can do to ascend. But since this video like kind of grew on its own and it kept leading to more questions, and it's really just like someone said, it's opening a can of worms because there's so much into it and no one really knows exactly what happened. But I just wanted to share how I think it went down. But you can definitely look up Tiamat. She is still around because when she exploded, her essence went everywhere in the universe. So you can still work with her as a goddess. So look up Tiamat and work with like her dragon energy and work with dragons, because there are positive ones that you can work with. But I am going to do a more depth in video about dragons, also asteroids. So stay tuned for that in the next video. Thank you guys for making it this far. Please comment below any information you have about this topic, as it is impossible to share all the information about this that is out there on this video. So thank you again. Have a great day. Until next time.